Am I the asshole for reporting the pizza delivery guy for sliding a note under my girlfriend's door? Situation. I, male 28, was spending the weekend with my girlfriend at her place. We decided to order some pizza and she ordered from her usual restaurant. When the delivery guy arrived, I opened the door and he looked at me confused, then proceeded to ask where girlfriend's name was. I said excuse me and asked why he was asking, and he said nothing. It was just that he's used to deliver pizza to her and this is the first he saw me, so he thought she moved. I told him she was busy, then took the pizza and gave him money, and while I was turning I saw him still standing. I asked how can I help, and he said don't mind me, I'm just standing here waiting. I told him he shouldn't keep standing outside like that and he rudely said it wasn't my property. I got angry but didn't want to escalate, so I said this wasn't public property and he should leave. I then went inside and shut the door. 10 minutes later, I caught a note getting slid under the door. I went to look and opened the door and saw the pizza guy going downstairs. I stopped him immediately and then read what the note said. He kept calling my girlfriend with her name and said that he was worried about her and how sad he was that he didn't see her this time. I asked if he left this note just to confirm, then told him I'd report him to his boss for this behavior. He said this wasn't for me and I'm not the owner of this place, so it was none of my business. We argued loud enough for my girlfriend to come out. I told her what he did and she told me to leave it alone and go back inside. I said alright then, but soon as I walked in I called his workplace and wanted to speak to the manager. I told him what that guy did and he promised to take care of it and said that he won't working for them anymore. Don't know if he was just telling me what I wanted to hear, but when I told my girlfriend, she got mad saying I shouldn't have done this and escalated by getting the dude fired. I asked if she was okay with what he did and she said no, but now she can no longer order from this restaurant as they block any customer that complains. I said maybe good riddance then? She said I overreacted and had no right to do this when it's not even my apartment. I didn't know what to say, but she completely shut down and refused to talk to me except to say I'm being too insecure and petty. Edit, something else is going on? I don't know, but from his attitude it did seem like he knew her well enough to act this comfortably. I tried to talk to him, like asking if I could help, but he shut me down completely, acting like I'm not even there. I wanted to get more clarification from my girlfriend, but she refused and I didn't want to pressure her. Also, I doubt that the guy lost his job and also doubt my girlfriend was blocked as a customer. As for the note, it was him addressing her directly saying he's worried and that he was sad he didn't get to see her. Am I the asshole for letting my daughter get a septum piercing, despite my boyfriend's wishes? For some context, my 36F daughter Maria is in her junior year of high school, and will be turning 17 in July. She has been dating her boyfriend for a year now and he is black. Her father passed away when she was 10. I have been dating Logan, M35, for about 3 years. Logan met Maria about 6 months into us dating, and they've gotten along great. Maria has suffered from depression since her father died, along with some other mental issues. Last year, her grades dropped quite a bit, and her GPA went down below a 3.0. This year, I made a deal with Maria. If she could get her GPA back up, and pass all her classes, then I would let her get a septum piercing for her birthday. She was very excited about this, and has been doing way better. Her GPA is a 3.1, and she is nothing below a C right now. A few days ago, she was showing me what piercing shop she wanted to go to for her septum, and Logan happened to overhear it. He ignored it at the time, and Maria and I continued our conversation. Later that night, when I was finishing up getting ready for bed, Logan asked if we could talk. He said that he didn't want Maria to get her septum pierced, and he felt like he should have had a say in our promise. This is when I think I might be TA. I told Logan that while I do respect him and his wishes, he was not Maria's father, and had no say in what I allowed my daughter to do. I said Maria and I made a deal, and I was not going to back down. Logan got pissed at me, and said my daughter was going to look like a drug addict, and even went as far as to say that she only wanted her septum done to impress her thug boyfriend. This angered me, and I once again said that he was not Maria's father, and that it was disgustingly racist and stereotypical for him to say that about her boyfriend. Logan ended up leaving, and going to stay at a friend's house. Maria asked where Logan was in the morning, and I told her that he went to work early. Logan's mother ended up reaching out to me, and said that Logan was basically Maria's father now, and that if I asked for forgiveness then Logan would be willing to come back. I stood my ground, and said I would not apologize or change my mind. Am I the asshole? Am I the asshole for getting a guy fired for waking my baby? I live in an unincorporated area that's about to be merged with a major city. We bought our house for $350K 2 years ago, and since there the entire area has been rezoned. There's a city center being built, multiple neighborhoods are popping up, and the entire area is becoming pretty densely populated. Because of that, the value of all the houses on my street has gone up significantly. Unsurprisingly, this has led to several companies buying up houses as investments, and I receive flyers almost daily from different companies offering to buy my house for cash. Our neighborhood has clearly posted no soliciting signs that get ignored by pretty much everyone, But one guy working for a particularly aggressive company started ringing my doorbell weekly asking us if we'd consider selling the house. I've told him no multiple times, as he's offering us only $20,000 over what we paid for the house, and I'm very well aware of how much our house will be worth in a few years. I've asked him to stop coming, but he keeps ringing the bell, sometimes multiple times, because he knows I'm home with a newborn. I asked him to stop. I even got a little hostile once, telling him off for taking advantage of people that don't know any better and offering them less than the true value of their property. He continued to come, and last week he rang my doorbell multiple times, and when I ignored him he started knocking on my window, yelling through the glass that he had another offer. He eventually left and left a letter saying they've upped their offer by $7,000. In doing all of this he woke my baby, who is colic and is a nightmare to put down. So, in a fit of rage, I sent my HOA an email with a picture of all the flyers and a full account of the harassment that's been happening. I know people hate HOAs, but mine does not fuck around. They immediately contacted the company he works for and threatened legal action for harassment and trespass, and sent letters to all the residents warning them this company is being aggressive about low-ball cash offers that are a bad investment and under market value. Yesterday I had a note on my car cussing me out for getting him fired when he's only trying to make his way in the world. Edit, I did file a police report. The company he worked for basically washed their hands of him and say he was an independent contractor, so I'm guessing he's 100% commission based or had aggressive quotas to meet. We also have cameras he hasn't been back since. Am I the asshole for asking my sister to stop fostering dogs so she could help me with my kids? Okay, just writing the title like that made me feel super guilty, but please hear me out before judging too harshly. I, 38F, have 4 kids ages 11 months, 3, 5, and 10. I love them all more than anything, but I'll be the first to admit that our house is constant chaos and it can get very exhausting. My sister, 33F, is child-free, but loves my kids and was happy to watch the older 2 or sometimes 3 to help me keep my sanity. This has been extremely helpful, and I tell her all the time how grateful we are for her help. The thing is that the kids used to go over to her house, but right now they couldn't because my sister was fostering an elderly Chihuahua. My sister claims she couldn't have them over for the time being because they would stress out the dog. Her dog was extremely frail and timid, so I think this was a fair assessment. This was the 4th dog she has fostered, all of which couldn't be around my kids. This most recent dog took 8 months to find a home for, but most of her other dogs took even longer. When she told me she found an adopter, I knew I could finally breathe a sigh of relief and joked about how I was so glad she could babysit again. My sister proceeded to tell me that there was a second dog that desperately needed a new foster, so she planned to take in that one as soon as her current dog was gone. So, she couldn't do any more babysitting than she already is. Sometimes she comes over to my house in the morning to help out. I could literally feel my stress level spike. I haven't ever done this before, but I opened up to her about how much I have been struggling since she got the dog. How little sleep I get each night, how my husband hasn't been helping as much as he should, and some other deeply personal issues that I've been struggling with. Then I asked her, point blank, to not get another dog. She comforted me, but ultimately didn't agree on anything and said she needed some time to think. I know I am asking a lot of her since rescuing dogs is her passion, and that is why I feel so guilty. But I don't have anyone else to help me. I can't afford a babysitter long term, and my friends all have their own kids to look after. Above all, my kids will always come before a dog, and that's the reason I was willing to request it. I've told a few different people about the situation and gotten a wide range of heavily biased opinions. So that's why I decided to come on here and as you guys. Was this unreasonable? I would never demand her to do this if she didn't want to, but is it really so wrong to just be honest my situation and earnestly ask? Am I the asshole for refusing to pay a cancellation fee at the doctor's office? Earlier today I, 22F, had an appointment scheduled for 12:15 p.m. with an ENT doctor. The appointment was hard to get, and this was the only day and time they had available for a few months. So although I had classes until 11:30 and a lab at 1:30, I figured I would be able to make it there and back in time because the office is only a 5 minutes drive from the university. I arrived at 12 to be sure I could get all the paperwork they make you fill out at your first visit done well before my time slot. I then sat in the waiting room until 12:55. At that point I went up to the reception desk and asked how much longer the wait is because I have somewhere to be at 1:30. The receptionist said I would be next, so I sat back down. 1:15 rolled around and I had still not been called to see the doctor. It had now been an hour since my scheduled appointment. So I again went up to the receptionist desk and asked for an actual estimation on the wait time because I have a lab in 15 minutes. She told him the wait would be around 30 more mins, which would make me really late for the lab. I explained that I can't stay any longer and will just have to set up another appointment. She said that would be fine, but I would have to pay the cancellation fee. I told her that I'm not canceling because of my own fault, but because they are way behind schedule and I have other commitments and can no longer wait for them. She said it was not her fault that I overscheduled my day, And to which I replied it was not my fault, they overscheduled the doctors. She then said again if I want to book another appointment I would first have to pay the $75 cancellation fee. I told her that's ridiculous and I will find another ENT doctor and left. Most people I have told agree with how I handled the situation, but my mom really laid into me saying it was my fault for not picking another day for the appointment, even though that would be months away. Am I the asshole for telling my husband that his son is right to hate him? I, 35M, married my husband, 36M, 5 years ago. We have a child 1F, but we started dating 10 years ago. My husband has a son, 16M, from a previous relationship. When I met him, he only paid child support and never fought for custody. As I didn't know the circumstances, I didn't say anything since that was my husband's business. I met this child when he was 6 because I pushed my husband, then boyfriend, to let me do it. My husband was hostile to this boy, and never tried to bond. The child was also hostile, but who could blame him? When we got a little bit more serious, I obligated my husband to do something special for him. So we took him to Disneyland Paris like 3 times on his birthday, but then he got a little older and started rejecting my husband, even more, so we just stopped because he didn't want. We didn't talk for around 4 years. He is 16 now and contacted me out of the blue, requesting my help. He had a huge fight with his mom's husband and he kicked my stepson out of the house. He asked me for money to find a place to stay, but I told him to come here, and I wouldn't let a teenager go to look for a place of his own. Our house has 4 bedrooms and we only use 2, so if you make the maths he can perfectly stay without any problem. I didn't tell my husband. When he got home, he saw his son and didn't say anything to him. Then he came to me to ask me what was going on, so I explained. He wasn't happy about the idea but had to accept. After all, this is a 50% my house. We had the first argument when he tried to make Raphael babysit for our daughter because I didn't agree. Then our second argument. Raphael and my husband had an argument and my husband came to me to complain about his son's behavior. He also complains about how his son doesn't even act on how much Raphael hates him and wanted to send him to live with his grandparents, my in-laws. I refused since we have enough space for him to stay with us. But he hates me, my husband yelled. Then I told him, and, can you blame him? You've been a deadbeat father who showed no interest in him. Your son is more than right to hate you. Then he called me TA for restraining his authority over his son and also for justifying his hatred. I'm not here to be judged for letting him in, because I don't regret it. Raphael went through a severe depression and also tried alcohol at a young age. Thank heaven he stopped, and I want to help him. He's a smart and sensitive boy, he is just misunderstood. But I'd like to know if you think I went too far by your son is right to hate you because my husband speaks the bare minimum and ignores me. It's been 5 days and he seems to be still angry at me. Am I the asshole? Am I the asshole for threatening my sil to kick her out over an argument? Little backstory before going to the main thing. I, 27M, have a brother, 31M, who has a wife, 29, and son, 7. Our parents were divorced, so after their passing, I inherited everything from my mother and also half from father, but my brother only inherited the remaining half from father. Shortly after inheriting my mother's house, I was quickly approached by one guy who wanted to buy the house. He already made an offer to my mother but she didn't want to sell because she was living there and didn't want to leave. It's a 4-story house that is huge AF, still had some rooms unfinished and I didn't really want to live there, so I cashed out and bought a studio apartment in the city where I was working. My brother was renting a place in the very same city. Forward to the recent times. My brother is an engineer and had a solid job until the beginning of 2020 where he got fired. Since then he still hasn't found a job in his field. He started eating through his savings and asked me if I wanted to buy his half of the house/property. Dad's house is smaller, but way nicer. Those last years of his life, he invested lots of money into the house and made a pool outside. I wanted to buy it off from him even before he offered it and planned to pay more than what he asked me, so I obviously accepted since it was a great deal and I somewhat helped him. Summer 2021, I guess my brother was running low on cash because he said that he can't afford the rent anymore, so he asked me if he could move in Dad's house. I wasn't using it that much so I let them move in. 2022. I've been staying at the Dad's house for the past month or so, because I have some people working on demolishing some old buildings on the property. I get up early every day so I can be with the workers. I noticed that my nephew never has a breakfast before going to school and also his parents never pack him anything. I asked him if he eats anything at the school and he said that eats an empty croissant that he gets from the shop. Felt bad so I started making him a breakfast and packing him a sandwich for school, along with some snacks and a drink. I've been doing it for the past 2 weeks. Yesterday, his mother saw him eating and what I packed for him. She said, "This explains why, nephew, isn't hungry after school," and left the kitchen after giving me this weird look. After nephew left, she came back and lashed out at me, saying that he'll get fat, that I shouldn't give him junk food, that I made her bad in her son's eyes and that I don't have her permission to do it. I told her that she is neglecting him and that I will only stop it once she starts doing it. She then screamed at me, called me names and told me to go back to my shithole in city. At this point I was fuming, so I threatened her that I will kick them all out if she doesn't get her shit together. Nagbauer asked what was all the screaming about, and after I told him, he said that I'm not a parent and that I should stay out of it. Am I the asshole for throwing a bowl away after a guest used it? We had a small gathering last week. Cake and ice cream for our daughter's b-day. We bought paper cake plates and plastic silverware for the people we had over to use. One of the guests asked if they could use one of the small bowls that are almost plates I had tucked away in the corner of the counter. I explained those were my dishes, so no. Everyone I know, including this guest, knows I cannot eat gluten. Now Reddit does too. Even cross-contamination makes me sick. I had just had a conversation with this person about how I was going to have to wash the kitchen and all door handles down because of the cake. It was a normal cake and that was why I wasn't eating it. I offered a regular plate to them, but it was too big. A few minutes later I see them eating cake from my dish. When they were finished I asked if they were done. Yes. Took the bowl and threw it in the trash. Guest said that was an asshole move. I told them I told you not to use it. I didn't make a scene. Just threw it away. Was he tough for tossing the dish right away in front of them instead of waiting? I didn't want it accidentally washed and put back with my dishes. And I didn't want anyone seeing it. With cake and taking another dish. Am I the asshole for running away and making my parents look like bad people? So, about a year back my family, me 17F, my brother, mom and dad, got kicked out of our rental home. My parents struggled financially to support all of us and couldn't find an affordable house that suited our needs, so they came up with a genius solution. They basically started renting a 2-bedroom house and told me in no uncertain terms that I was to go find a family member to take me in. They kicked me out and left me on the front yard with basically nothing but a bag of clothes and my cat. They didn't even help me figure out a living situation. I ended up staying with my disabled aunt for a few weeks, but she couldn't financially support us both, so I had to figure something else out. I ended up venting about this online, and an older friend of mine, Ace, 24NB, privately reached out and offered to let me stay with them. Ace and I had been friends for a little while at this point and I trusted them, so I said yes. They drove up to my aunt's place and they stayed with us for a few weeks, and then we packed up my things and headed back to Ace's home. Disclaimer, I know this seems extremely sketchy and in most cases would be, but Ace is chill, and we talk with certain members of my family daily, so they're up to date on literally every bit of drama that goes on in our lives, so no one's really concerned about Ace doing anything. We only live about an hour-ish from my aunt. I'm safe. Please don't call Ace weird or sketchy or anything. They aren't. Anyway, recently one of my cousins got married, and I got invited. I wanted to go, so Ace drove me home and I went to the wedding with a friend. This was the first time since they kicked me out that my parents saw me and they freaked out. My mom grabbed me and started screaming and crying about how worried she was about me, and my dad started yelling at me demanding where I went. This was in the middle of the reception. I told them that since they kicked me out, I left. A lot of distant family heard this and got pissed off at my parents for kicking a minor out of the house, and others for them ruining cousin's wedding. In the chaos of people freaking out over my parents, and trying to calm everyone down so the party could continue, I managed to sneak out and go back to Ace. We went home, and ever since I've been bombarded with calls from my parents and other family telling me to go back and stop hanging out with that pervert. I've been refusing and blocking numbers left and right. Also, my cousin forgave me for what happened at her wedding. She said she enjoyed the drama and having the attention off of her, while her husband solely blamed my parents for what happened. I honestly think my parents don't actually care about me. If they did, then they would have contacted my school before now about me, or the cops. Or even my aunt, who says that they never ever talked about me when they called her. Either way. Am I the asshole for running away, ruining a wedding, and making my parents look like bad people?